Okay, how are you going, folks? So I've just come from watching a show on a chap named Ranty Flat Earth, that channel, and he's having an argument with another chap I believe is called Rumpus. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know these people that well. Okay, so now they were arguing about a particular point that I want to raise, and this, the level of stupidity pretty much made me feel like chewing my own arm off. So let's deal with this. Okay, now I'll say at the outset that the guy called Rumpus was trying his level best to explain this. So I understood perfectly that he was well aware of what he was saying. However, he wasn't obviously getting it across to Ranty as well as Ranty needed it to be. And of course there were some other people in the chat like Nathan Oakley, 180 I think, who were uttering something absolute garbage. And by the way, loves the word utter. Now, I don't believe that this guy didn't understand. He's just one of these charlatans who pretends that he believes that the Earth is flat, and I'll bet you a pound to a penny that that Nathan Oakley 180 knows exactly what Rumpus was talking about. Okay, so let's leave him out of this for a minute. So what I've got over here on my board is a representation of, we're going to look at the Bolivian Salt Flats. So this is a representation of it. This is a very large area of salt. That was once a salt lake, and is now just dried, and as a result we've got the salt flats, and it has various outcrops through the center of it. It also has hills surrounding it, so I've tried to depict those. There's hills, the outcrop through the center, and the hills on the surrounding it. Okay, now the other thing we have here, these red dots over here, that would represent an object or a person at a particular location, and this other one over here, same thing. And then the X over here means X, meaning the distance from there to the center of mass of the Earth, which would generally be the radius, give or take some amount depending on this particular elevation. Now, okay, so the middle of it, as I said, is the outcrop. Now, the Wikipedia page that they were arguing about basically was suggesting that not to take into account the so when we're talking about the flatness of this, flat meaning the average elevation, equal elevation above to the center of mass of the Earth. In other words, if you look at all of this, this is the biggest salt flat in the world, simply because it's the largest area of land where the average elevation is to the center of Earth is the same. Okay, so this is what it means. So in other words, if you pick most points around here, they will have the same distance to the center of mass of the Earth. That's what that means. Okay, now, and what it means is that even when you take all of the things into account, like the outcrop, it still is the flattest. So what does it mean? Flat in this case is used incorrectly. It should say level, but because it's using colloquial language, they use the word flat, because people generally think about flat as things as being, from here to here as being the same. People don't generally think about flat as being as being from here to the center of the earth is the same as from there to the center of the earth. People just generally don't think like that, so they use the word flat. Okay, the proper word to use in this case is level. However, okay, so what it means by flat, in this case, it means that from here to there to the center of earth and from there to the center of earth is the same. And this is the flattest place because for most of the area around there, that is the case. Okay, and the average of all of that area is very, very small. This outcrop over here doesn't change the general amount average of this area very much. Okay, in other words, if you add up all the little hills and things like that go over here, so what you do is you'd set this area here, you'd set the general at 0. Okay, you'd set that at 0. That would be your datum. You'd set that at 0. So the average there, the general area where most of it is to the center of the earth would be set at 0. And then this elevation, these outcrops, would be given an appropriate distance above 0. So let's say, for instance, the tallest outcrop was say 10 feet. Okay, if the tallest outcrop was 10 feet, some of them are 10. Perhaps in this area over here, it's only 5, and so on. So the outcrop has different areas of elevation above the 0. Now, so when you add them all up and you compare that to the vast amount of land that there is, they make very, very little difference. Okay, those outcrops make very, very little difference across the whole lot. Okay, hundreds of square miles with only just a few feet of outcrop. When you average them out, all the distances, they come to pretty much the same. Those distances, that 5 feet and that 10 feet, become insignificant. This insignificant is why they describe this as the flattest place. Okay? So, once again, these areas over here, you've got to consider this area here as 0. This red dot here is 0. That red dot there is 0. And the reason they are 0 is because they are the same distance to Earth's center of mass. Okay, they have the same datum. Now, these outcrops are above that 0. Now, when you average out the amount of those outcrops, those various heights of those outcrops, when you average them out and compare them to this entire huge area of the Salt Lake, they become insignificant. The more insignificant they are, the more this area is described as flat. Now, flat in this case is used incorrectly. The word should be level. Okay? Flat is just a colloquial term. The proper scientific term would be level. Now, level in this sense, again, means the same distance from the surface to Earth. Now, this applies to water as well. Okay? There is no place on this planet that you could describe as flat. Flat meaning, if I put a line across here, let's call that flat. The distance to the Earth's center over here and over here and over here are different. Okay, if this was 1 mile, this was 1 mile, this would be root 2. 1.414. If this was 1 mile, this was 1 mile, this would also be 2 root 2. This would be, sorry, root 2. Okay? So, clearly they are not the same distance. Root 2 is not the same as 1. So if they were flat, then these distances would not be the same to the center of Earth's mass. That's not what happens here. This and this are different things. The only way that this can be the same distance to the center of Earth's mass as that one is if it's a curve. Now, how Ranty and others on that show could not understand that is totally beyond me. If you want me to offer a hypothesis, it's because they cannot get their minds away from how they think about flat, how they think about what flat Earth is. They just cannot get their minds away from that, so they can't put their minds in this kind of frame. Okay, I hope this helps a bit. It may not help Ranty, but I hope it helps some people who were confused about that. Okay? Or who are perhaps still confused. Not after this, I hope. Okay? Alright. Okay, I'll do some other videos later, but I did get a little bit triggered on this one. Because not because of the idea, but simply because the total inability to understand some basic concepts like this. Okay? Right, and then those ones that were in the chat, like Nathan Oakley 180, who are just there to make sure that their income is preserved, and there's no people in the chat who can explain to the potential customers of Nathan Oakley 180 in a way that they can understand that this flat Earth stuff is flat out nonsense. Okay. If you like my videos, please just press the subscribe button and also the like button too, please, if you don't mind. And forgive me if I felt, if you thought I was a little bit triggered today, and if you did, you're quite correct. See you next time.